Before Gideon ever picked up a sword, before he became a name generations would whisper, he was just a man hiding from life. No strength, no bravery, no confidence. But on this night, a night darker than any Israel had known, heaven was about to choose him. Not the strongest, not the bravest, just the one God decided to transform. For 7 endless years, Israel was crushed beneath Midian's heel, their crops stolen, their homes raided, their children starving. Every sunrise brought new fear. Every night brought new tears. The land cried out, and heaven listened. And there, in a dusty pit used for crushing grapes, sat Gideon, not hiding from sin, but hiding from survival, threshing wheat in secret so Midian wouldn't steal it. This wasn't bravery, this was desperation. He wasn't preparing for war. He was trying to make it through the day. But suddenly the air changed. Light broke through the shadows. A figure stood under the oak tree, watching him. Not a soldier, not a stranger. An angel of the Lord. With a voice that shook the air, the angel said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Gideon just stared, confused. Mighty warrior? Him? The man hiding in a wine press? Gideon checked behind him to see if someone stronger was standing there, but no. The angel meant him. Gideon didn't pretend to be brave. He didn't fake faith. He asked the question burning inside every Israelite heart. If God is with us, why are we suffering? He wasn't doubting God's power. He was doubting God's presence. And heaven wasn't offended. Heaven was preparing him. The angel didn't debate, didn't explain history, didn't soothe Gideon's fear. He simply said, "Go in the strength you have." Strength Gideon couldn't see, but God had already placed inside him. Gideon's voice trembled. "My clan is the weakest, and I am the least in my family, but God never asked him to be strong alone. I will be with you." Those 4 words rewrote Gideon's destiny. To be sure this was real, Gideon asked for a sign. He placed an offering on a rock, and suddenly, fire exploded from the stone, consuming everything. This wasn't imagination. This was God choosing him. Before Gideon could fight Midian, he had to confront the idols in his own backyard. At night, trembling unsure, he tore down his father's altar to Baal. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't bold, but it was obedience. When the sun rose, the whole town erupted in anger. Who did this? Bring him out. He must die. Gideon's first act of obedience nearly cost him his life. His father stepped forward, standing between Gideon and death. If Baal is a god, let him defend himself. And the crowd fell silent. Suddenly, the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon, and everything changed. The fear didn't fully vanish, but the purpose grew stronger. He blew the trumpet, calling Israel to war. The man who once hid in a pit now stood on a hill, summoning warriors. Gideon asked for another sign, dew on the fleece, dry ground around it. And in the morning, it was so. Then he asked again, this time the fleece dry, the ground wet. And God answered again, not because Gideon lacked faith, but because God understood Gideon's fear. 32,000 men stood ready, but God said, too many. God didn't want Israel saying, we won by our strength. He wanted one truth carved into history. The Lord saved Israel. When Gideon announced, if you are afraid, "Go home." 22,000 soldiers left. The army shrank, but Gideon's faith grew. 10,000 remained, still too many. God was cutting Gideon down, not to weaken him, but to make the victory undeniable. At the river, God gave one last test. Most men knelt and drank carelessly, but 300 stayed alert, lifting water to their mouths. Those were God's chosen warriors. 300 men against an army so large they looked like swarming locusts. Impossible? Exactly. This was the setup for a miracle. At night, God told Gideon, "If you're still afraid, go listen." So Gideon crept into the enemy camp. What he heard changed everything. One soldier told another, "I had a dream. A loaf of barley bread rolled into our camp and destroyed us." The other replied, "That is the sword of Gideon. God has given Midian into his hands." The enemy feared him before he even attacked. Hearing this, Gideon fell to his knees, not in fear, but in worship before the victory. He thanked God. No swords, no arrows, just torches, clay jars, and trumpets. This wasn't a military plan. It was God's plan. At Gideon's signal, 300 jars shattered the night. 300 torches burst into flame, 300 trumpets blasted like thunder. The hill exploded with light. In the darkness, confused and terrified, the Midianite army turned on each other. Swords clashed. Panic spread. Confusion was their defeat. God fought the battle. Gideon only followed instructions. Hours ago, Gideon hid in a pit, afraid to be seen. But now, torch in hand, faith in his chest, he led Israel's 300 through the smoke of victory. Not with pride, not with power, but with awe. He had watched God turn fear into fire, and weakness into a weapon heaven could use. The Midianites fled in panic, their camp in ruins. But Gideon didn't stop. This battle wasn't halfway. This war wasn't finished. Side by side with his 300 men, he pursued the remaining soldiers through the valley, exhausted, hungry, but unstoppable. Because when God starts something, he finishes it. As dawn broke, the people of Israel gathered on the hills, staring at the impossible sight before them. Midian crushed, the land silent, and the least man in his family standing as God's chosen deliverer. In that moment, Israel understood. This victory was never about Gideon's strength. It was about God revealing what he can do through one willing heart. The enemy was defeated, Israel was free, and the land rested for 40 years. Gideon was never the strongest, never the bravest, never the most likely. He was simply willing, and in God's hands, the willing become warriors.
Comment, like and subscribe for more videos.